Shawn Stevenson, here with my amazing and talented, gifted co-host and producer, Jade Harrell. What's up, Jade?
What's up, Shawn?
How are you today?
I am stupinary.
What does that mean?
Stupendous and extraordinary.
I like it.
Yeah, but that's kind of close to stupid. But I'm like stupid, extraordinary, as the kids would say.
Yes, you are. Kids don't say that.
They don't?
No.
Oh.
But
They might
it's
bring
a
it
good
back.
try.
Everything else comes back.
This is true. Bell bottoms will return at some point.
They will.
I'm into yoga pants though right now.
I could get with those.
Not personally.
No, they're just fun
but,
to look at.
You know, yeah.
I aspire.
So, on another note, welcome to the Model Health Show, and so glad to have you today. We got a fantastic show and a subject matter that I'm extremely passionate about, and I know you are too.
Absolutely.
Being a parent, you know, and how important this is in my life, and also our kids. You know, like we're actually raising people who are going to be the stewards of our planet. So there's really not anything that's more important than that. And for those who don't know, this might be a secret revealed to people today. I actually have another podcast. And, yeah, right, exactly.
You think you know a guy. I knew that, though.
It's called The Good Dad
and
Project.
And it's a good show.
And it's with my good friend, Larry Hagner, who's the founder of The Good Dad Project. And we actually have him in the studio today.
Sweet.
And I'm looking at him.
Me too.
And we're going to introduce him more in just a moment. But first, I want to share just a couple of things and why this is so important. Number one, I really feel that working to become a better parent is one of the most valuable and transformational things for self-development, period. You know, because you're really working on a lot of different things to up your game. And anything that kind of creates the conditions for you to do that is going to be valuable overall. And another thing is that we're also setting the standard for our kids, you know, and with the health and wellness practices, I've seen this firsthand, what it can look like in a not so good situation and what it can look like in a good situation. And seeing that, you know, my kids have really taken on to the things that I've done in my life personally with my health and well-being. And we also had my son on recently. He was in the studio here with us.
Jay-Bird.
My son Jordan, who just turned 15. And by the way, so we just finished like a 10-day clip of birthdays. So my birthday, yes. And people are going to be hearing this a little bit later, but my birthday is at the end of August. And then my youngest son, who just turned 4, Braden,
yes.
His birthday was a week after mine. And then my 15-year-old now son is 3 days after his birthday.
My goodness.
So we just been going through the whole gamut.
Right. The birthday tour.
Yes, the birthday tour. And so it was really quite an experience, and just getting to see the growth and development. And just, I really take birthdays as a time to reflect. And so for myself, because I was actually traveling back from an event on my birthday in Michigan, and shout out to the guys over at Fitness Rich.
That was cool.
Yeah, super powerful stuff. And so I didn't really get a chance to reflect, you know, because I was actually working on the plane while I was working as well. And so for me, when I thought about all the things that I've accomplished over the past year, it really got back to gratitude and just wanting to be thankful and pay more attention to that gratitude moving forward. And one of the things that I want to do to say thank you was the people who are subscribed to my email list. I actually gave away 3 brand new Breville juicers.
That was awesome.
In celebration of my birthday.
Right.
You know, I got one gift from my family. I got
Come
one
on.
gift. But I really don't want anything.
I
you know.
know.
It's not,
what do you give a guy who has it all?
Right. not a tie. I'm not a tie guy. So they actually got me some cool little Beats headphones. And so, but I wanted to give something. You know, that really made me feel good.
Yeah.
And so, guys, if you're not on the email list, you got to get subscribed. I give the best stuff ever there. So you can go to quickstartplan.com and you can get access to my Quick Start Plan there, which is basically 4 really powerful steps that I use to essentially help people in my clinic over the past few years take off about 2.5 inches off their waist in 2 weeks.
So easy.
And it just works. All right. Or you can just go to themodelhealthshow.com and you'll see it right there. There's a feature box that says, men subscribe here, women subscribe here, because it's very different information you're going to be getting based on whether or not you are a man or a woman.
Yes.
So head over there, check that out so that you can stay connected and get connected to some of these awesome giveaways that I do as well.
Well, that's kind of what I like about the episode we're going to have today, because I love the show that you do with Larry, but we don't have access to those conversations. So like you have on the website, men can go here, women can go there. I was going to see if I could have somebody sign up so I could see what you told the guys. But it was certainly custom to me, and I guess you guys have those secrets, but I love how you make those distinctions.
And it's a different language. It's a different texture when you're talking to the fellas versus when you're talking to women directly, you know? And there's also a different kind of context and content when we're all talking together.
Sure.
You know, there's slightly different parts of our personality that come out, and that's really what I speak to. And so, guys, super pumped about the show today. But first, let's go ahead and give a quick shout out to our show sponsor, Onnit.com. Head over to onnit.com/model, and you're going to get 10% off all of your health and human performance supplements. Huge fans of the Hemp Force protein. It's my daily post-workout nutrition that I'm taking in. Also, the Shroom Tech Sport, that's my pre-workout. And Shroom Tech Immune, I use that when I'm in the midst of nefarious activity, you know, if I'm traveling or people are getting sick around me, I'm upping this Shroom Tech Immune based on chaga mushroom. Upwards of 5,000 years of documented history, 300% increase in your NK cells, your natural killer cells activity, which basically is immune system weapon building for you. All right, so your immune system is like little ninjas. And so those are just a few of the things that they carry. Fantastic stuff, fantastic people. Head over and check them out. You're going to get 10% off. Use the code ModelHealth or just simply go to onnit.com/model. Now let's get into the iTunes review of the week.
I love this one. This has a 5-star rating. Says, setting the tone each and every week. If there is one podcast I recommend, it is the Model Health Show. Since starting to listen in March, I've lost 30 pounds, have dramatically improved my health, and have begun to live an active lifestyle that I always wanted for myself. The key has been the grounded, holistic, realistic approach Shawn advocates. When people ask me how I've managed to look so good, I point them to the Model Health Show. Why? Because the Model Health Show has done something for me that no other diet, fad, gym, or fitness program could do. It has taught me that a healthy lifestyle needs to be enjoyed. That's key, people. Through his guests, I've learned that eating healthy can be delicious, and through Shawn's passion, I have seen that exercise is fun and rewarding in ways beyond magnitude. I'm just about to hit 30 and can honestly say I am in better shape now than I was at 20.
Wow.
You have shown me what is possible with my health, including making health a family affair. My wife has been empowered to go through her own health journey thanks to your work. I cannot express in enough words what this show has meant to us. Thank you, Shawn, for your help in setting the tone each and every single week to make the healthy choices. P.S. Jade, don't think your contributions are going unnoticed. You are the salt of this show, truly quintessentially vivacious.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't expect that part. That's from Bobadia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bobadia, shout out. And just, they were like, that's key, people.
Right. That's key, people, with exclamation points.
Love that. I love that. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Definitely hit both of us in our hearts. And thank you, everybody, for sharing these reviews over on iTunes. Can't say enough about how much it means to us. Thank you so much. So now let's go ahead and get into our topic of the day and our special guest. Our guest today is Larry Hagner. He's an author, speaker, coach, podcaster, which I should know he's my co-host for the Good Dad Project. And he's also the founder of the Good Dad Project. The Good Dad Project is dedicated to helping men become the best versions of themselves so that they can show up big for their children and also in other contexts in their lives as husbands, as boyfriends working on being a husband, on even people who've gone through different things in a relationship, maybe divorce. There's so much value that he brings to the table. And he's just a really good friend of mine, super smart guy, genuine guy, good heart. And I'd like to welcome you to the Model Health Show, man. What's going on?
What's going on, Shawn and Jade? And do you ever not smile, Jade? Like ever? I mean, every time I listen to this show, I can always feel her smile through that microphone. So.
It's genuine. Yeah. Thank you very much.
So, and I'm up here smiling, cheesing just to have you in here, man. This is truly one of my best friends, and it's been great getting to know you. So let's go ahead and start there. Actually, let's talk a little bit about how we met. Let's share that story.
That is a funny story. So about 3 years ago, we met, and my wife at the time was working with a personal trainer. And at the time, I really wanted to just up my nutritional game. So I got tired of, following the same thing and not getting the results that I wanted. So I asked my wife's personal trainer, hey, do you by any chance know anybody who does some nutritional coaching? And he's like, oh man, I've got the perfect guy for you. And he gave me Shawn's number on a Post-it note. So I remember calling you, and I remember leaving a voicemail. and then made an appointment and came to your office. And I think, honestly, that's where we talked nutrition definitely through the first couple of appointments. But after that, it just turned into an awesome friendship. We ended up sharing our backgrounds, and it was almost scary, like how similar our backgrounds were. And I remember at the time, the Good Dad Project was a Facebook page.
Yeah.
And I remember just talking to you about it, just in talking, and you're like, that's just epic. What are you going to do with that? And I'm like, I have no idea. Just probably keep it as a Facebook page. Why? And he's like, you should write a book. You should do all these things. And I'm like, I don't write. But, and lo and behold, here we are 3 years later. Shawn and I are good friends. We share a podcast together on the same mission together. And it's just been an unbelievable journey. I mean, I'm so honored to be here. I mean, I've been a fan of the show for a long time, and it's awesome to be here.
Awesome. What a great story, man.
Yeah, it is.
And so, he initially, like you said, he came in for some nutrition stuff. And, what were you then? Probably you were around 35, 36 at the time?
Yeah, I was 36.
And he had his little medicine bag, he had his little drugs. I know it's weird now thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I was just, how I work in my clinic is I'll dissect the medication and show you exactly. And he's actually taking something that was causing a problem. He's taking something else for, and so just helping people and helping patients to see what the medications are actually doing, where they come from, and some alternative ways, which are actually smarter, more natural ways to address the thing first. And really quickly, there was a quick turnaround. You were off those medications in a matter of weeks.
I was
Really?
actually. Well, that was actually the biggest reason I went to Shawn was, I wanted some nutritional counseling, but at the time my doctor had put me on. So I'll be very transparent here. I was taking medication for adult ADHD. I've always struggled in school growing up and attention. So I was like, maybe I should get on some medication. So I was on that, and then I was taking something for cholesterol. And so Shawn's going through this, and I was taking allergy medication as well. And I was like, man, I'm 36 years old. I'm already on like 3 or 4 different medications. This is not good. I'm going to be walking around with Monday through Sunday, the pill thing, right? So I was like, I'm too young to be taking this. Maybe I should go get advice and educate myself. And I'll never forget one. It's unforgettable. So Shawn sat me down. He's like, so what do you take this ADHD medication for? And I'm like, well, I need it for focus. And he just leaned in. If you could picture this, he leaned in over the desk and he looked straight at me. He goes, are you focusing now? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm focusing now. He goes, heck yeah, you are, because you want to be. So, and it was after I was like, that's true. Like, if I just make myself focus, I probably don't need this medication. And I stopped taking it.
He's good for those enlightening light bulb moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that, man.
Of course, so this was back when I was still seeing patients in my clinic. And it was just a really great experience because I got to have these moments 10 times a day, up to 10 times a day working with people over the years, and them really just being empowered and owning whatever the issue is. And oftentimes it's just a matter of taking a good look at it. And he's one of the most engaged, smart people I've met. Like him, he takes on this stuff so quickly. Speed of implementation is like his middle name, And so him, when he wants to be focused, and this is a big issue, and we're going to definitely do a show about this in our culture, in our society today, and seeing a lot of kids who are seen to be problem children or they can't focus, and understanding that this is one of the most unnatural kind of conditions we throw our kids into, being everything in them is driving them to get up and play. And then we're taught we have to sit down for 7 hours a day, like out of the blue. Right. And then we get like a 20-minute recess. It's the most unfair situation that we're stacking big condition against our kids today. And so, and more people are kind of falling victim to that. But Larry was on the outer edge of it, and being an adult with this issue and carrying that around his mind, just to have that breakthrough moment was really powerful. I'm not recommending you go and throw your pills out the window, guys, but at the same time, you have to understand it's your body and you get to make that decision. And through the story, you actually mentioned how we started to talk more through our work together, and seeing our stories were very similar. So let's go ahead and share a little bit about your story and how the Good Dad Project was kind of incubating through your childhood experience.
Yeah, so I think one thing I've learned by going on this journey with the Good Dad Project is every single person behind every single face, there's absolutely a story. And my story, so I'll share a story with you of how the Good Dad Project kind of came about, and I'll kind of start with my childhood. Basically what happened was my mom and biological father were married. They got divorced when I was about 9 months old. And then after that, I really never saw him or heard from him again. He was gone. So, I mean, and I don't share this out of pity whatsoever. In fact, I don't regret anything about my childhood whatsoever. But one of the things that happened was I remember being in preschool, and I remember the fathers coming to pick up their kids. I remember this vividly, like it was yesterday. And I remember dads coming to pick up their kids. And I remember my mentality was like, well, the moms just go out and find a dad, because my mom and I had a good relationship, and it was, there was nothing I felt like I was missing out on. Well, then when I was 4, she was dating a man, and she brought him home to the house to introduce me, and to have like this dinner and all that. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it. She found a dad. So I'm 4 years old. This guy comes walking in. I shake his hand. First question I ask this guy is, are you going to be my dad? I mean, it's a show. I still remember. I mean, this is 36 years ago. I still remember like it was yesterday. And, eyes wide, he's like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into, right? So he's already committed to the relationship. So anyway, lo and behold, they got married. They got married when I was 5. I remember being at the wedding, and I had a dad, and it was awesome. It was awesome for a little while. Unfortunately, what happened with that relationship was it became pretty toxic. He was a heavy drinker. When he did drink, he got, he was abusive, physically, mentally. But also, but sober, he was actually one of the coolest people I've ever known. Like, he was one of the nicest people I ever met. Anyway, when I was 10, they got divorced, and unfortunately, I never saw him again. There were no visitation. I never saw him again. He was gone. So then when I was 12, something interesting happened. I ran into my biological father, who I had never seen, which was shocking. It was shocking for him. It was shocking for me. And it was a very humbling thing to experience, especially when you're 12, and especially for him, because at the time he was only 35. Make a long story short, we had this brief relationship for a few months. And what happened is I don't really know what happened, but it became kind of strained, and we drifted apart. And after a few months, we never saw each other again. So by the time I was 12, I had lost my biological father once, lost my stepdad, and then lost my biological father again. And again, I don't share this story out of pity. I mean, if anything, this upbringing, I think, made me a stronger person. But from the time I was 12 to the time I was 18, my mom dated and married a few different men, and none of them were really great father figures. All of them were kind of the same guy, and nothing against my mom. She just, unfortunately, these men came into her life, and none of them were all that positive. So the father figures that I did have growing up were never positive. So I think by the time I was like 15, I was just kind of done. I was like, I'm over this whole father thing. I'm not going to have a good one. That's just going to be it. So an interesting thing happened 10 years ago when I was 30. 2 things. Number one, I became a father for the first time. I have a 9-year-old son by the name of Ethan, became a father for the first time, and I met my biological father again. I ran into him as a total fluke in a Starbucks here in St. Louis. I knew exactly who he was when he walked through the door. He hadn't changed very much. It had been almost 20 years. But what happened is we ended up connecting, and we talked. And I'm happy to say that this actually has a very happy ending, which I think is a rarity. So here we are 10 years later. My father and I talk probably at least once or twice a week. I see him all the time. We don't have like a typical father-son relationship, but what we do have is a good friendship, and I see him a lot. So he's been fully supportive of the Good Dad Project. So basically where the Good Dad Project came from was that childhood and that upbringing. I had no idea what to do. And I think a lot of us men, we don't know what to do. But I knew what I didn't want to do. Right. But I didn't know what to do. So what I did was I got mentors, I got coaches, I dove into self-improvement. I became like this mole, I think, of just, I geek out over that stuff anyway, self-improvement. And I just found as much as I could. And what I found was a lot of these strategies, becoming a better man, a byproduct of that is becoming a better dad. It really is. And that's what I have a huge passion for.
You went out and found a dad.
Yeah.
You got mentors, you got the tools, you got the things. You found a dad that was in you.
Thank you.
Wow, that's powerful.
That is.
And there were so many different things there, even in the story. He began the story by saying, I wouldn't change anything. Yeah. From a story that sounds pretty negative, but it's a relatively common story, and this is where, we have so many similarities as well within that context. But one of the other things was his mom remarrying the same type of characters, and this is something that we talked about a little bit on the show, but just this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, and being at a certain place in our life, we're having a certain standard or certain template of what we think we can attain, how valuable we see ourselves as. And we will have a tendency to attract those same people until we essentially say no and start to work on ourselves so that we can attract better people in our lives. And a big part of that is making room, and kind of cutting the cord from toxic relationships. But you really got to work on your no muscle to make that happen. And so
no meaning saying no, but no also knowing yourself and your patterns.
Look at you, you're going to use the N-O and the K.
I'm just saying.
N-O-W. Love it. So let's go ahead and bring it back over here to Larry. And I want to ask you about this now. So currently, what's your family look like at this time? Because you mentioned, so you had your first son then, so...
Right. So I guess this is going to be out now. We haven't really announced it to a whole lot of people, but yeah, Jade, I know, shocking, right? For those of you who can't see, Jade's got a smile from ear to ear.
Because I'm thinking you're going to tell us.
And you are right.
You're having another baby.
So yes, indeed. So I have a 9-year-old son, Ethan. I have a 7-year-old Mason. I have a 22-month-old Lawson, and I have another boy. Yes, my poor wife. Yes. Another boy on the way. He is going to be due on February 14th on Valentine's Day of next year, and his name will be Colton.
Nice.
So, yeah, my poor wife. I mean, she has a special place in heaven.
Yes.
She's really a martyr.
So you named all the boys. Name your wife and give her proper due, because she is paying.
She is. I am happy to say I'm blessed.
Yeah.
I'm truly blessed. My wife is 1 in a million. She is truly a spectacular person, a wonderful mom, a wonderful wife. She is by far my best friend. I'm happy to say, after knowing her for 19 years, our relationship literally gets better and better every year.
Yeah.
But that's because we choose to make it that way.
Yes.
And put the time and the effort into it. But she is an absolute saint. Love her to death.
Yeah. So Larry, with that said, the Good Dad Project is about a lot more than just being a good dad. It's also, like we mentioned earlier on, it's about being a good husband, just being a great man, really.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about why you went from, studying a lot of this stuff to really build yourself up, to work on yourself, to be a better man. What made the transition to you kind of wanting to open it up and share with other people?
I think a lot of it had to do with, number one, I have to give credit where credit is due. And if it wasn't for you, the Good Dad Project would not be where it's at today, because I remember sitting in your office and sharing what my passion was about being a good dad and self-improvement and improving dads. And you were really the one who forced me to get out of my comfort zone. You and I had a lot of challenging conversations where you challenged me to get out of my comfort zone. And what I think you really taught me was to be comfortable being uncomfortable and really putting myself out there. If you would have told me 3 years ago that I would have written a book, had a blog, and a podcast, I would have told you were nuts. But really the why behind it is I know what it's like to walk in the shoes of a struggling husband and a struggling father. The best analogy that I could possibly give you guys is, you've been in production, Jade, for years, right?
Many.
Being a father or a mother, it's almost like you having no experience being a producer, and Clear Channel calls you up and says, hey, tomorrow you're going to be a producer. Come on in.
How did you know?
Right.
That's actually how it happened, and I was petrified, and I stumbled through.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you can recall, like, those early times where if you could go back and talk to your old self then, what would you have done differently? And a lot of times, the thing about being a dad is there's very little resources out there, and there's very little training.
Yeah.
So we tend to struggle through our journey instead of being empowered by it and enjoying it. And the Good Dad Project is all about giving men and women too, but mostly men, the strategies to basically enjoy their journey, give them confidence, and basically just kind of get out of your own way and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And give you those resources.
Wow. I've got to say this. I was not expecting to hear that. It kind of hit me a little bit because I didn't know that there was such an impact there, because as I mentioned before, like, speed of implementation guy here, but just saying certain things. And this is really important for everybody to understand. Like, if you really listen to somebody, they will tell you the cause and cure of what's going on with them, whether it's a health problem or whether it's a fulfillment problem in their life, you know. And I saw that this was like something so important, not just for him, but for all of us, you know. So I definitely asked the right questions and persuaded him, I guess, to consider doing something bigger with this. But what a huge honor it is to be a part of the story. But now, like you mentioned, go ahead.
Well, I have to wonder if part of the struggle with dads is in communication. I mean, in health, men typically aren't the ones that, I don't want to say typically, some fellas, they're not communicating about their health. They're not communicating about their struggles. They're not communicating about their challenges. And though I love being the fly on the wall on your show and being able to hear you all converse, that couldn't have been an easy thing to step into for either of you. And I wonder if in the dad struggle that this is probably a great place of relief because that conversation can happen.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, we know the stories of like the grandfather who's like got, I don't know, scurvy or something, right? He's dealing with scurvy and he doesn't tell anybody. You know, he's like this super tough guy and just kind of holding it in, taking it all. But the reality is everybody feels, you know, all of us, you know, the real driving force for human beings is to feel love, you know, to actually have that experience of feeling like we matter, you know. And but the way that we were conditioned early on, and things have changed a lot, you know, and today's world is really all about transparency, you know, but there are some kind of dying habits that we still have. And I know I definitely had to work on things to be able to communicate how I feel and my emotions. And I would think that I'm pretty good at it, but it took a lot of work. So what do you have to say about that, Larry?
There's a quote that I think illustrates that perfectly. Most men will live a life of quiet desperation. And here's why. You're right. Most men, we are not necessarily wired up to communicate the most effectively. Let me ask you a question, Jade. So when your husband comes home and you say, "Hey, honey, how was your day?" What's his response?
It was all right.
It was all right.
Yeah.
Or it was fine.
Yeah.
Or it was good. We're kind of one-word answer creatures, and here's why. We don't do that because we want to emotionally connect with you, but we want to remain strong, stoic. Right. I mean, that's how we're wired. And a lot of times we are not very good at communication, and we literally bear the weight of the world on our shoulders so much. And it can make us absolutely miserable. And if there's time during the show, I'll definitely share some of my own personal stories of how it made me miserable. And there were times where just because I'm the founder of the Good Dad Project, that doesn't mean my house is full of sunshine and rainbows. It just basically means I'm sharing the challenges. I'm sharing the struggles. And hopefully what I'm sharing also is some of the strategies you can use to overcome those struggles. Right. Because it's easier than we think. But we're not wired that way. Yeah. We're just not. But if you give men a little bit of a guide, because here's the thing, most of us are not going to ask for it, but we desperately, desperately want it. True. So if you give a man a guide, if you give a man a roadmap, it's just such a sense of relief because now we know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and where we're going.
Yeah, this is really important right here in this moment to understand. I think some women are already probably feeling this, is that I need to listen to that too to find out how to be better
for them. Yes.
Right, exactly.
That has been one of the greatest takeaways is that I've shown up better for him. When he comes home, I know to give about a 5 to 10 minute window. I learned that from your episodes, and some things that I can do to make it more of a receptive place for all that he carried during the day. And actually even understanding you a little better, like don't bring you a whole bunch of ideas all at once kind of thing.
Oh, yes.
I'm learning, but it is very valuable for women to hear this show.
And so obviously, you know, a large percentage of our listeners are guys, dads, but then we also have a lot of women who listen to this show too, a lot of moms, and we receive amazing feedback from them, just being able to hear what's going on in our heads. And I'm sharing all this today and again doing shows like this because I feel that the number one most influential thing on our health and our well-being and our success in life is our relationships. And so with that said, we've got a lot of moms that listen, but also surprisingly, I get a lot of messages, I don't know if you do too, from guys who don't have kids yet. They're just like, I just want to know what's coming.
Right.
You know, and so it's been really interesting to see the different, because we started this was the Good Dad Project podcast, you know, had no idea that it would impact so many people.
No, it's funny because even though my site is gooddadproject.com, a lot of the people that opt in on my email list are female. And that's because I really think the tips are for parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's geared towards men, but a lot of the women, like I'll get reviews from women. If you look at our iTunes reviews, I mean, half of them are from women.
Yeah.
Also, if you look at the people that follow the page and everything, I mean, half of them are women.
Yeah.
People are very, very curious, it seems like, to know how their man is wired up, how they can just be more engaged. And I mean, it's fascinating to see. It really is.
Yeah. And thank you, ladies.
Yeah,
thank you for listening to the show and seeing what's going on over at the Good Dad Project. And guys, if you're not tuned into that podcast yet, definitely check it out on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you're listening to the show. Of course, head over to gooddadproject.com. You can listen to the show there as well. But so all of this has manifested in something really amazing. And I had the opportunity to actually read the book, and like, I'm not very easily impressed. Like, I was just, I was like, I know Larry's good, but I didn't know you were that good, man. Like, the book is so phenomenal. So his new book is called The Dad's Edge: 9 Simple Ways to Have Unlimited Patience, Improved Relationships, and Positive Lasting Memories. And as I was reading the book, and a lot of the story, your story, I knew already, but it was as if I had never heard any of it. And it was so gripping. And it made me just want to devour the book, and just the insights, the tips there, just phenomenal, man. So we know that the book is now available. But first I want to give everybody some of the insights that are actually in the book. So there's 9 different key strategies, tips, secrets that you dive into. So let's go ahead and talk about a few of them. What's one of the most relevant, like, important things that we need to improve ourselves as a parent?
So my book, believe it or not, when you see The Dad's Edge, it's not a book on parenting. It really isn't. What it is it's 9 strategies, 9 pain points that we as men absolutely go through, whether that be, we're going through a troublesome time with our wife. How do I get that? How do I, get that spark back? How do I get that connection back? Or you're going through a time with your kids where, whether they're little and it's hard to relate to them, whether they're teenagers and it's hard to relate to them, but there's always something that we're struggling with. And the number one thing that I hear from every single dad out there, and to date, I have done several dad workshops where men come, and I do a speaking event, and it's an interactive workshop. And there's one thing that every single man wishes they had more of, and I bet you can guess probably what it is.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Money.
Money is helpful, but just go ahead and share what it really is.
It's patience. Patience. If you get to the heart and soul of what a man really desires, it's more patience. And I'm not just talking.
They said so.
Yeah. I mean, if you ask any guy, I want more.
Yeah.
But there's 2 types. There's 2 types of patience.
Okay.
There is patience. I need to have more patience for all these things that are going on outside. Like, for instance, like my deadlines, my emails, my work, stress at work, stress at home. All those things can wear and tear on our patience. Those are like external factors. And this is all, there's a whole chapter in the book dedicated to this, but I'm going to give you some of the pearls. And then there's our internal patience, which is that voice. It's that voice that says, why can't I handle this? Shouldn't I be stronger than this? I should be better than this. It's that voice that just yammers away at your self-confidence. One of the things that I go over in the book, and the reason I think I can speak to some things like that is because I suffered awful through it, like just terribly. I mean, and one of the things that I found is when I started blogging about it, when I started speaking about it, when I started doing these workshops, it was like the unspoken struggle of every man. It seemed like once I started talking about it, every man was like, "Oh my gosh, yes, me too, me too, yes, yes, give me the answers. How can I be better at that?" And the secret to improving your patience, if you look at being burnt out on life, whether that's work, whether that's relationships, whether that's your kids, it's all intertwined. But if you know how to take time for self-care, for self-improvement, you're being proactive. And what you're going to do is a byproduct of that is you're going to increase your level of patience because you're being proactive about it. I dive more deeper into the book about it, but 2 other areas is the connection with your spouse.
Well, hold on.
Yeah,
let's come back to that, because obviously that's a whole world of stuff in of itself. But this patience thing and him just pointing out this really profound fact. And I make this statement as much as I can. When you're tired, your best friend can look like your worst enemy.
Yep.
You know, and so when you're already stacked conditions against yourself with your health, with your mindset, with your emotional intelligence, and all these things are substandard, guess what's going to happen? Patience is going to be hard to come by.
Right.
And you're going to be upset with yourself that you love these people, you love your kids, you love your spouse. Why are you so irritable? Why are you so on the edge? And this is really, like he said, it's a byproduct of really just not taking care of yourself first. And this can seem counterintuitive, you know, and we've all heard it before. This is the last time we've beat this one to the ground of putting your mask on first before you put your mask on your kids on the airplane. And by the way, I don't think anybody's actually going to do that, you know, but the analogy is wonderful. It's so that you can go ahead and do that so you can be more present and clear and healthy to be able to take care of your child or your spouse, you know. So really building yourself up first, being in a weird kind of way, being a little selfish to take care of you so you can show up better for everyone else.
Can I give an example of a struggle that's very, very common?
Absolutely.
Please.
I went through it, and it was one of those things too. Before I started talking about it and talking to other men about it, I kind of thought I was like the only one on my own little island that was miserable with this thing. So if you look at the common man, the common dad, I would probably say like 95% of us are not from 8 to 5. We're not necessarily doing a job that we're super passionate about. We're out there, we're doing work. We have high work ethic. You know, we're wired up to be hunters, gatherers.
Yeah.
I mean, we are wired to do just that. However, is it the most fulfilling for all of us? Probably not. And so here's the challenge. And I totally, you know, I got sucked into this as well. And, you know, I have a full-time job besides the Good Dad Project. I manage people for a living. One of the things that I noticed is from 8 to 5, you know, it was emails, it was deadlines, it was problems to solve, it was this, it was that. And I had to be on like my A game all day long. By the time 5 o'clock rolls around, just like any other man, you're exhausted. And unfortunately what happens is you've given your best. Usually you've brought your A game all day long. And the struggle is when you walk through that front door, and I know, gosh, firsthand, I was awful at that. If my wife was standing right here, she'd be like, yeah, you were awful at that. You know, so, but basically what I would do is I would come into my house, shoulders slumped over. You know, I would look at the house, I mean, with 3 boys, the house would be a mess. You know, there's toys everywhere. It's loud, it's crazy. And I would just have defeated attitude when I came in the door, because here's what I thought. I just came from a chaotic environment at work. And now my perception was way off. And now I just came into a chaotic home. So there's like no peace, like that. There's no sanctuary that I really desired as a man. One of the things that I learned, and I'll give some nuggets here of how to do this, is you have to prep. You have to prep before you walk in that front door. Just as you go on an interview, or just as you do a presentation to clients, you always prep, and you're always in that. I mean, even before we started today in the studio, like I'm thinking, I'm prepping. What am I going to say? What am I going to talk about? To be honest with you, walking in your front door is no different. It's absolutely no different. You have to bring that A game. But a lot of men wonder, okay, from the time I get home to the time I walk through the front door, what can I do? Because I'm so frustrated, I'm so burnt out, and I have no patience. So what can I do? So what you have to do is you basically have to know some techniques to get out of your own way. And how do you do that? A lot of times, a lot of the tips that I give is you have to sometimes do something from the outside in. In other words, if you feel defeated, put on a positive podcast. Turn off the news or the blues. Turn on a positive audiobook. Turn on some music that maybe you work out to, something that pumps you up, and literally visualize what you're going to do when you walk in the front door. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but trust me, it does work. And what happens is you're getting your mind in that same state, that same A game, as you would if you were going to do a presentation to customers or being a host on a podcast. You're bringing that same energy. A lot of times, if you listen to positive music, that will help. Positive podcast, positive audiobook. There are some days though where I am so defeated. I'll do 2 things. Where I'll put on something inspirational. I'll be like, man, this it's not working today. So what I'll do is I'll do one of two things. I'll either say a prayer, and whether you're spiritual or not, I'm not going to get into that, but I'll say a prayer where I'm like, you know what, I'm not my best today. I'm just not. But I'm just going to hand control over to you and guide me through to make me my best. And a lot of times, if that doesn't work, sometimes you have to bring the happiness and the energy that you want to see. So here's what I mean by that. When I walk in the front door and if I feel completely defeated, what I'll do is I'll high five all my kids. I'll throw one up over my shoulder. I'll twist them around. I'll dip my wife down. And the whole time doing this back in my head, I was like, this is kind of corny. But you know what? Everybody in the house is laughing. And now all of a sudden there's a new energy in the house, and there's something to be said about momentum. You start the evening like that, you know, the rest of the evening is going to be better. My wife always told me before I started doing all this stuff, I could always tell how the entire evening was going to roll by the first 10 seconds you walked in the door. Because let me tell you, I was not fantastic to be around for a long time until I learned how to do this. Yeah. So that's just a couple things you can do.
Yeah, I love that. And this really speaks to the fact that our emotion is created by motion. All right, so your motion, like your physical movements, can literally change your state.
Right.
And this is because human beings were really hardwired. We have, you know, we've talked about this on previous shows, this myelination of certain neural connections in our brain, certain pathways, certain things that fire together. You know, and what's said is that neurons that fire together wire together. So when you start to do certain activities, certain motions, certain movements, even just dancing around, all of a sudden your brain is tapping into those connections. You know, even smiling, you know, just smiling literally changes your brain chemistry immediately. It changes what your hormones are doing immediately. And we've talked on previous shows about, we did a show on basically 10 steps for improving or increasing your testosterone. One of them is changing your physical state. Clinically proven, we're going to get over 20% increase in testosterone just by standing in a power pose, you know, and just by you changing your body, you can change what's going on with your hormones, your attitude, and obviously the results that you're going to get in your family as well when you walk in the door. Super powerful stuff right there, man.
Absolutely. I don't know if you all realize how you come in the door as the heroes and stars to us.
Yeah.
You know,
wow.
We've been anticipating you coming, having no idea.
The return.
Right. You know,
the return of the dragon.
I mean, really, our house goes, wow, Daddy's home. And all of a sudden people start scurrying around and I'm like, oh gosh, put some onions on the skillet or something. Dinner's not ready. Throw stuff in the trunk or whatever. But, you know, we look and we hold our breaths. Like everyone is in that, like that 10-second moment. And then we could see, hey, how you doing? Or, hey, everybody, you know, or if he looks past you to the kitchen, then you know. So there's so much energy that comes with you. I know you're already carrying a whole lot. And for that, I'm sorry. And want to create and hope that you're getting the support and encouragement you need. But I think you're so right. Coming from within in order to bring the proper change, that energy that's coming with you, because you do bring it.
Yeah, and I know some of these strategies sound a bit odd, but what I would tell your listeners is just try it, because here's why. 5 years from now, is bringing that stress home with you going to help you or hurt you? Because what you're gonna realize is that, and what I can speak to this because I did it for so long, and I regret terribly. I regret having that defeated mindset when I would walk in my door, because I knew I wasn't giving my kids and my wife what the best part of me. And now what I've done is, and it takes some practice, and it takes several, you know, if you can do this every day for 30 days, it will definitely change things. Right. But just getting out of your own way and enjoying it, because don't live a life of regret. Don't look back on those times and be like, you know what, I really wish I just would have let myself enjoy that more. And I didn't.
And it goes by quickly.
There's so many other strategies that Larry shares on the podcast and also in the book about these moments and how to essentially kind of change our perception, really. And it's super valuable stuff. But one of the things that you were going to start talking about now was connection with our spouse. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so obviously one of the most important, and again, at my dad workshops, some of the men who I've emailed with, spoken with, seen at the workshops, I mean, one of the things that can stress out a man very, very much is the relationship with his wife. And what I mean by that is, if that relationship is maybe not optimal, a lot of times we're so busy. We are so busy with work obligations and sporting events and homework and a lot of times we can feel like for instance, I'll give you an example. Sometimes I feel like if Jessica and I aren't taking the time to really connect with each other, we're like spinning in two different orbits under the same roof.
Yeah.
We'll like pass each other in the hall, be like, oh, wow, hey, you live here? Okay. But it's really taking the time you have to have that intimacy. You have to have that connection. And in the book, I go over 3 different ways to make sure we as men are present. And this is not to knock men at all. I mean, men and women are wired up completely different. And sometimes it's just an understanding of what those differences are that make all the difference.
Yes.
So like, for instance, if you want to have a better connection with your wife, one of the tips that I talk about is a daily connection. One of the things that my wife and I do, keep your mind out of the gutter, is we do this every day. We call it pillow talk. Now, when you have 3 kids, 3 boys, as you know, you have 5, Jade. But when you have that many kids, you're not going to have a high quality connection conversation over dinner. Normally, it's mad chaos. But what we do keep sacred is 10 minutes before bed. And what we do is we turn off the TV, we turn off the electronics, and we face each other. And usually we'll touch each other in some way, meaning like we'll hold hands, or we will just make sure we have eye contact. And what we do is we ask each other questions, open-ended questions. The questions of, how was your day? Fine, where you can ask and then you get one word. Those aren't allowed. It's all about connection. What I can tell you about taking 10 minutes is it's never 10 minutes. It's 20 minutes. It's 30 minutes. It turns into obviously a connection. And sometimes, hey, it turns into sex.
Yeah.
And why shouldn't it? Because if you have that connection, the intimacy is going to be there.
Which is huge for the ladies.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
And that's a part of really understanding how women are wired different. Women absolutely have to feel an emotional connection before a physical connection. I mean, they can, but at the same time, it makes that physical connection a lot better.
Right.
Another way is making sure that you schedule date nights. I know that sounds so simple, but if you ask most parents, hey, when was the last time you had a date night? I'd be like, what year is it?
Right, exactly.
But if you can schedule, a monthly date night, and what I mean by that is literally sit down with your calendars. It's actually kind of an exciting thing to do. Sit down with your calendars, be like, what are we doing in September, October, November? Let's schedule these date nights now, and let's book the babysitter.
Yep.
And those date nights, what I call it in the book, is the non-negotiable date night. There's no calling in sick. There's no like, it's been a tough week, we're just going to stay in. No. You have to get out. You have to get out of the daily grind. The other rule is you have to go to a place. You can't go see a movie. Absolutely not. No movies. And here's why. You have to interact. You can't just sit there and do something. You have to interact. My wife and I, one of the things that we really enjoy doing is we like going out to dinner because we can talk and we can connect. Or we'll do an activity where we can experience something together. Another thing that men can do, I know, again, this sounds so simple, but I am so guilty of it, is when she speaks, be there. Yeah. Listen. Really listen to her. Because
look at his face. That one really spoke to you too.
Yeah, I know how important that is.
Yeah.
I mean, it means the world to all of us just to feel like we're heard, especially her, because with women, it could be a multitude of things. Like maybe she wants you to fix something. Maybe she wants some advice so she can fix it. Or maybe she just wants you to listen. But the answer is actually the thing that creates the umbrella for all of them, which is to simply listen.
Listen. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because nothing will make a woman feel more unimportant than if you're sidetracked while she's speaking. So the level of intimacy and connection you create for her when you simply just dial in, it pays in dividends. Trust me, guys. It pays in dividends. So that's a third tip for it.
Yeah, it does. And I'm a huge advocate and fan of the date night, but what we do is something a little different. We have National Date Day.
Yeah.
So this is where, and we do this at least once a month, where we have basically the entire day. Our son will maybe part of the time he's with his older brother and her mother as well. But generally, so this might be from 8 o'clock in the morning, where we go and work out together to start the day. We'll come back, and if the kids aren't gone by then, we'll all have breakfast together, but then we'll get ready and we'll put everybody where they need to be, and then we'll enjoy the rest of the day together. And since we have extra time, we could go to a movie, but we also, of course, go out to eat together. Sometimes it'll be 2 meals. Sometimes we'll just go and hang out at the bookstore. Sometimes we've done stuff like laser tag. Sometimes we've done like miniature golf, and she's so competitive though, we can't really do that anymore because it turns into like a golf club fight. But she won't tell you that. So we're not actually fighting though. But it's such a great opportunity to kind of do what Larry said, which is forecast this stuff, put it on the calendar in advance. Don't get to the point where you're like, we really need to spend some time together, because you're just going to keep saying that. I know this because I've done it as well. Yeah. So putting it on the calendar makes it real, and it's super powerful. Great tip, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's go ahead and share maybe one more of your tips from the book, one more of the sections in the book, because each of these sections is
sections. Let's talk about sections.
This is not us, guys.
Right.
It's Jade this time. So
they said that, come on, there's studies. It's not just me. I read that 80% of your day might be occupied doing a bunch of work, but the brain.
Right. By the way, just since she's bringing up sex again, I always like to make this point as well when we're talking about this intimate connection with couples. According to the research, couples who have a television in their bedroom have 50% less sex.
Oh, that's out of here.
And for some people hearing this, they're going to be like, that's not us. But look at stuff long term. And what it is a distraction, at the end of the day. And you're creating that neural association for your bedroom. Instead of it being about sleep and sex, it's about watching television, and passing out with, Walking Dead on. You're having your weird dreams with like Mike Tyson and in a Bobby Brown video, whatever. And so
that's very unique.
We want to make sure that if we want to improve our relationship, one of the greatest things we can do is to get that television out of your room, so that you can create a better connection with your spouse.
Ooh, you gave me, you inspire these insights. Television, it's taking your vision somewhere else, transporting
It's telling you a vision.
Right.
It's telling you what to think.
Transporting your vision.
This is why it's called programming. But on that note, let's keep it moving. Larry, back to you. Let's go ahead and share one more of the tips and strategies from the book.
So one of the things, and I know you're big on studies. You guys always are great about backing up your data when it comes to a certain point that you're trying to get across. So let me share a study with you when it comes to men and their desire to connect with their kids. So we talked about patience. We talked about connection with the spouse. So let's move it to another area of our dad journey, which is our kids. Yeah. So in 1965, they did a study. And they looked at men in 1965 and how much time they actually spent with their kids on a weekly basis. And they spent, on average, 2.5 hours per week with their kids. So, and nothing against that generation whatsoever. I mean, that was more maybe the provider, generation. This generation, though, I think I kind of refer to it as the modern dad. There was another study that was done in 2010 where they polled men, and the average dad now spends 7.8 hours with their kids per week, which is great because now those hours have tripled. But here's the really cool part. So the men that were polled in 2010, they asked those same men, they said, did you feel that you spent enough time with your kids, or do you want more time with your kids? And 48% of those men said, I didn't spend enough time with my kids. I want more time with my kids. So now we have these, this generation of men, and kudos to every dad out there. So because we've really changed the game, number one, we're spending more time, but we want to spend even more time, which is awesome. But sometimes, again, it's almost like, hey, tomorrow you're going to be a producer, go learn everything. So sometimes his dad would be like, well, I want to spend more time and I want to connect, but how do I do that? And how do I know? Yeah. So there's 3 different strategies that I give in the book. And one is, I think the simpler you make things for us guys, and I know I'm wired the same, I'm like, just keep it simple for me. If you can connect daily, weekly, and yearly, that will set you up for great connection. Let me talk about each one. So daily, one of the things that I do every night is I try to talk to my wife. We try to carve out that 10 minutes. Well, I do the same thing with my kids. So when I'm putting them to bed, as you know, Jade, you've got 5, Shawn, you got 3. I have, I'll have 4 here in a bit. But when you have one-on-one time with each kid, they are completely different than when they're around their siblings.
Right.
So one of the things that I try to do is try to carve out daily time with each one. And I ask them, again, open-ended questions. I'm not going to ask them the typical yes or no questions. I want to know what's going on in their life. And what happens is when I prep, again, be proactive. Just prep. Be like, tonight I'm going to ask about this. Or what was your favorite part about soccer practice and why? Tell me more about that. When you ask a kid a question like that, it doesn't matter what age they are, teenage, little kids, whatever, they will talk. And if they don't talk, you can continue to ask different questions that they will talk. But connecting with them on a daily basis. Weekly, one of the things that me and my boys do, we try to do it every week. Sometimes there's a sporting event challenge and that kind of thing, but I try to get them out of the house and we do something together, whether that's, we go indoor rock climbing, we go on a hike, or we go to a park, we do something. Very rarely will I take them to a movie, even though I just took them to a movie last week, but that's all. But every now and again, sometimes you just need some downtime and you just want to, hey, let's go see a cool movie together. But just doing something on a weekly basis, whether it's Saturday or Sunday, just taking a few hours, get them out of the house. Trust me, guys, your woman will really appreciate that as well. So, and take all the kids if you can. Give mom a break, and plus it feeds your relationship as well. Yeah. One more thing that I do, and guys, I can't recommend this highly enough. It's been the most, it's been just the most uplifting thing I think I've done with my kids is that I take them on a trip, a one-on-one trip, every single year. The year before last, I took each one of them to Chicago, and then last year I took them each to Colorado. Individually, I did that. And here's
now
why.
Now you're taking a lot more trips.
Yeah. So, and here's why I did that though. My full-time job, I travel a lot. So one of the things I want to do is I want to get out of that daily grind myself. I didn't get to travel growing up, and I want my kids to really experience different things about life. And I think part of having a great connection and building great memories is going on a trip where you're out of the daily grind, you're out of the house, you're away from emails, you're away from your phone, and the kids and you can build a new level of a relationship. It is truly extraordinary. And one more thing about the trips, they don't have to be extraordinary. They absolutely don't. They can be very, very simple. If you're living on a budget, which we live on a budget as well, you can take them camping, you can take them fishing. Right. Just do something for 24 hours where you're away from the house. Create those lasting memories because, again, you're going to turn around 10 years from now and you'll be like, I wish I would have done that. Why didn't I just take just once a year? Just once a year, why didn't I take that time? So those are 3 strategies you can do to connect with your kids. It pays dividends.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And a lot of this stuff, I get from Larry, and then I'll find a way to fit into my lifestyle. Like you said, it doesn't have to be extravagant.
No.
It's like as soon as I heard this from you, I was like, I'm planning a staycation immediately. Yes. And so I would do kind of like the national date day with my wife, with my sons, and maybe go to a football game or, go out to eat and just hanging out all day together.
Right.
And also that just putting that on the books again, to have a one-on-one trip. I mean, it's a game changer. And I've seen the impact that it's had on your kids and also just inspiring a lot of other dads to do the same thing. And so, well, we're coming to the end of the show here, and it's been a life changer, man. It's so powerful, and I'm so happy that I can be a part of this with you. But I have this question I like to ask all my guests, and I'm going to ask you. So what is the model that you're here to set with the way you're living your life?
I think the model is for men to become empowered in their dad journey. And what that really means to a man is it goes far beyond being a parent. Yeah. It's in several facets, and I illustrate this in my book. It's becoming a better man in the workplace. It's becoming a better man for your relationship and your spouse connection. It's becoming a better person for your kids. It's leading by example. It's being able to master work-life balance. Yeah. It's all those facets. It's all those areas in our life. It's not just about parenting. It's not just about, my kid did this, how do I respond? It's about just getting out of our own way and just being the best version of ourselves so we can just show up bigger and better for our relationships, for our kids. Because what that really does from a dad's point of view, selfishly, is that it helps us feel confident, empowered, and it helps us to truly enjoy our journey as a dad.
Wow. Awesome stuff, man. Thank you so much for being here, my man.
Pleasure.
And it's really, it's my pleasure because I get to see and talk to you more often than everybody gets to right now until you guys come over and check Larry out. So where can people get connected with you?
Yeah, so you can go to gooddadproject.com. That's where you'll find our podcast. Shawn and I obviously host the show. You'll also find the blog there. You'll also find the book there. If you go to Amazon and just simply put in The Dad's Edge, I guarantee you'll find The Dad's Edge there. I'm also on Twitter, Good Dad Project. I have a Facebook page, Good Dad Project as well. I think if you Google Good Dad Project, I'm on Instagram as well. You can connect with me there, Good Dad Project. But by all means, I love connecting with people. I'm pretty anal about my email, so if you email me, you'll probably get a response. So, I love hearing the stories, and I love hearing the struggles as well, because the opportunity to enjoy this whole journey of fatherhood is right there in front of us. Just sometimes we have to get our map. We have to get our guidance.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. And everybody, make sure to check Larry out. Check out The Dad's Edge. I can't recommend it enough. Fantastic read. And I'm not just saying that because of my friend. It really is a great book, and I think it's important for our world today. And I'm really inspired just to be able to be a part of this health movement, but also this movement towards being a better father, and also just being a conscious parent, because we're actually raising future generations of humans. So it's kind of important, and to, like Larry said today, we don't necessarily have a map. And the Good Dad Project is really providing a very powerful map and a blueprint of what's possible. So to help you to navigate your health and your wellness, and also your relationships, and also being a parent, I definitely recommend checking out the Good Dad Project podcast, and of course, staying connected here with me at the Model Health Show. I hope you got a lot of value out of today. I will see you very, very soon. And by the way, guys, if you want to see the video of this episode, head over to themodelhealthshow.com. We're doing some awesome stuff with video right now. But I really hope you guys got a lot of value out of this. Take care. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk with you soon.